Our top story today, Dr. Fauci gets spit roasted on television. Triggered Democrats send hearing into chaos when Marjorie Taylor Greene refuses to address Mr. Fauci as doctor while ripping him over his evil experiments and lies. My name's Elijah Schaffer, and this is the Gateway Pundits Week in Review. Welcome back to the Week in Review, where we cover the top 5 stories of the last 24 hours in around 10 minutes. The Gateway Pundit reports that Fauci has been getting roasted by Marjorie Taylor Greene. Colin Linebarger reports. As the Gateway Pundit reported, Jordan Conradson, the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic, heard testimony at 10 a.m. Eastern Time in the Rayburn House office building from Dr. Anthony Fauci, the former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, in face of sinister COVID-era lockdowns and fraudulent medical guidance. Upon arrival at the Capitol, Fauci received some much-deserved heckling from conservative journalist, lawyer, and activist Yvonne Reichlen, who unloaded on him with a question on his sick record as lies as he strolled away. But the real cake was to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who spit roasted him. Watch the video.
Of the NIH, you did sign off on these so-called scientific experiments. And as a dog lover, I want to tell you this is disgusting and evil, what you signed off on, and these experiments that happened to beagles paid for by the American taxpayer. And I want you to know Americans don't pay their taxes for animals to be tortured like this. So the type of science that you are representing, Mr. Fauci, is abhorrent, and it needs to stop. Mr. Fauci, you also represent the type of science that where you confess that you made up the COVID rules, including 6 feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it up. You made it up as you went.
I didn't say I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr. Fauci?
I didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
But this is science.
What does dogs have to do with anything that we're talking about today?
These are scientific experiments. This is what you signed off on.
Yeah, so the best thing is he's like, Mr. Fauci, and everyone was like, if you watch the other videos, they freak out about it. And the funny thing was, this is not even the best part about it. While he was giving his testimony, as the Gateway Pundit reported, a January 6er who was sentenced to 3 years in prison steals the show during Fauci hearing. His reaction to Fauci's alleged threat discussion will have you rolling. As explains down here, a January 6er stole the show during Dr. Fauci's House Select Subcommittee. Fauci, the former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, was testifying about the origins of COVID, lockdown measures, and misleading medical advice. But one of these January 6ers, who was eventually escorted out of the room, I think, or at least somebody similar was, he ended up making some faces, and it was hilarious. Watch.
Dr. Fauci, can you please share with us the nature of the threats you have received since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes, there have been everything from harassments by emails, texts, letters of myself, my wife, my 3 daughters. There have been credible death threats leading to the arrests of 2 individuals, and credible death threats mean someone who clearly was on their way to kill me. And it's required my having protective services essentially all the time. It is very troublesome to me. It is much more troublesome because they've involved my wife and my 3 daughters.
At these moments, how do you feel? Keep your mic on.
Terrible.
Do you continue to receive threats today?
Yes, I do. Every time someone...
Okay, dude, listen, you're not an innocent victim. People shouldn't be threatening your family, especially if they're not public figures and not involved in it. But dude, you killed people. So people kind of want you dead. I'm not calling for violence against you, but like, you didn't just piss people off. You actually killed people. Your policies and the things that you suggested led to deaths. A lot of suicides and substance abuse too. So realistically speaking, it makes sense. It checks out. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying it checks out. On other news, Connor Kavanaugh says the NFL team is hit with a major backlash, leaves fans disgusted by Pride Month post. This is embarrassing. It's a very simple fact in life that normal people want to enjoy things without some political agenda being shoved down their throats. If I go to McDonald's, I don't want to hear leftists whine about how the company supports a foreign nation they don't like. If I drive my car, I don't want to need climate zealots screeching about how a 3-minute trip to CVS is going to kill the polar bears. And by all this, that is good. If I want to watch some American football, I absolutely don't want homosexuals shoved in my face. It goes on to say here directly that every year when June rolls around, every company throws out the most generic and invasive ads. But this time, the Arizona Cardinals wasted no time putting out an Instagram post with LGBTQ rainbow alongside the caption, "Football is for everyone. Happy Pride Month." Very gay. Another safe little ad so they can remind leftists throughout America that they love homosexuals. But what the Cardinals may not have expected is how many individuals are beginning to get incredibly frustrated with LGBT values being forced in places they don't belong, like in sports. "This is embarrassing," one commenter said. "Sad world we live in. These poor children shouldn't be known what this is." Look, I'm kind of with that. I think gay stuff's like a kink. I don't even think people are born that way. Maybe you do, but I think it's a sort of a kink, a mixture of like trauma and, being molested, maybe formed with also just like maybe overbearing mothers, and then it develops over time. But we don't push kinks on kids. It's weird. It's just strange. Speaking of that, another story from Jim Hoff, the Gateway Pundit reports, breaking: Trump calls on U.S. Supreme Court to intervene after being convicted of a made-up crime in Kangaroo Court. President Donald Trump has called upon the U.S. Supreme Court to intervene following his conviction on all counts in the politically motivated hush money trial that concluded last week. The timing of the sentencing hearing, conveniently scheduled just days before his renomination for the presidency at the Republican National Convention, adds another layer to the already thick fog of bias surrounding this case. Sentencing was set for July 11th, 3 days before the Republican convention. The Gateway Pundit previously reported that sources within the DA, Bragg's office, disclosed to The View co-host Sunny Hostin that Bragg may recommend Trump serve a year in a notorious Rikers Island. Wow. I spent this morning speaking to someone from the district attorney's office. They're called street fighters. He believes that they will recommend a 1-year term in prison, and that is because when you spend a year in prison in New York or you serve in Rikers Island. Taking a Truth Social platform, Trump lambasted the trial's timing and the figures involved, characterizing his sentencing as the orchestrated by fascists to undermine his influence before a major Republican gathering. Sentencing for not having done anything wrong will be conveniently for the fascists 4 days before the Republican National Convention. A radical left Soros-backed DA who ran on a platform of "I will get Trump," reporting to an acting local judge appointed by the Democrats who is highly conflicted, will make a decision which will determine the future of our nation, Trump wrote on Sunday. And I hope the Supreme Court listens, because this is a travesty against the people. Also, just to chime in very briefly, while this may be a legit criminal case, Biden is going after the Epoch Times, which is very critical of the Chinese communist regime right before the election, saying that he was involved in a money laundering scheme. You can read more of the story there, but it just seems untimely, right? He's going after InfoWars, going after Epoch Times, Trump. This seems like there's something going on. There is something going on. Even if it's true, the timing is impeccably suspicious. I'm Elijah Schaffer. Thank you so much again for watching the Gateway Pundits Week in Review, where we try to cover the top 5 stories of the last 24 hours in under around 10 minutes. Have a great rest of the week. Thank you for subscribing to thegatewaypundit.com. And may God bless the United States of America. I'm signing out.